version.
Hey guys, welcome back to Internet Saver down here. I think this is
Trial version.
Blue Theory.
Trial version. Trial version.
Sometimes I'll just fix something. My head moving.
Trial version. Trial version.
Head, please move. Is it moving?
Trial version.
Okay, yeah, it's moving. Is it moving a little bit? How about I just
Trial version.
slowly?
Trial version. Trial version.
Listen.
Trial version.
Okay.
Trial version.
Yes, I'm using my phone as a mic and
Trial version.
face tracker. So yeah,
Trial version.
we're gonna be watching Cake is Alive.
Trial version.
Because I kind of just think it's
Trial
kinda
version. Trial version.
hard. I got rid of that
Trial version. Trial version. Trial version.
I'm trying to move my camera. So right
Trial
there.
version.
So,
Trial version. Trial version. Trial version. Trial version.
if I sound far away, that's because my phone is like on the computer.
Trial version.
Like against my bed. So
Trial version. Trial version.
okay, this thing is not working, so I'm just gonna stop the
Trial version.
Writers, listen up. We're developing
the face
Trial
tracking
version.
is not working.
a new
Not
game called
working.
Portal. This
When
is
I
just a
open
spitball
it,
session, so there are no bad ideas. Go.
It works
Cake.
better. It works
Trial
better.
version.
Excuse me?
Cake? It's delicious and mysterious. How's this for a catchphrase? The cake is a lie. Because it is, you know, boxed cakes say that you need to put in eggs, but it's not true.
Why is there a baker in here? Do any of our staff writers have any input?
Nope, because it's 5 o'clock. Let's just go with the cake things. No bad ideas, right? All right, see you Monday.
Oh dear. This game was already pretty weird to begin with.
You're doing very
Trial
well.
version.
Hello, Internet. Welcome to Food Theory, the only show that contains 100% of your daily recommended dosage of the scientific method. Plus, it's part of a balanced breakfast. Loyal theorists, I can't quite call myself a master chef no matter how many times I watch Gordon Ramsay tell people that their food tastes like poo.
What are you?
An idiot sandwich.
Nope, it takes just about all of my culinary skill to make something from a box, which I do quite well if I say so myself. My Kraft macaroni and cheese is indeed the cheesiest. My Rice Krispies consistently snap, crackle, and pop. Bet I could even pull off a boxed cake mix if I had to. After all I gotta do is add some water, and oil, and eggs. Seriously gotta add 3 additional ingredients, and one of them is eggs, which, you know, you gotta crack, and then the shell's gonna get in there. What do I look like? Young Anthony Bourdain? Was that really what he looked like back in the day? Wow, that is a beautiful head of hair. The point is, I'm a horribly lazy chef, but I heard a rumor that would allow me to have my cake and eat it too, quite literally. Remain a horribly lazy chef, but also be able to make boxed cake mixes like a champ in the laziest way possible. You see, the rumor is that you don't actually have to add eggs at all to certain boxed cake mixes. Now, I don't know if this is true or not, that's what we aim to solve today, but if it is, this could be a game changer. Because the last time I bought eggs, I promptly forgot about them in the back of the fridge for like 25 months, and let me assure you, the smell was excruciating. So today, I'm gonna get to the bottom of it once and for all. Do you actually have to add eggs to boxed cake mixes? And if not, why the heck would Big Cake be lying to us about this fact? It is making the recipe more complicated. And perhaps most importantly of all, how many egg puns can I reasonably fit into an episode before you all get exhausted? Exhausted. Theorists, if we're gonna determine whether or not this confectionery conspiracy is half-baked, I think it's best we get cracking. So the first thing I want to know is whether the rumors are true. Can a passable cake actually be made without the eggs? Like, why exactly are eggs such a big deal in baking in the first place? Well, it turns out there are a few main reasons why eggs are called for in baking recipes. First, eggs affect the volume and density of a cake. According to thekitchen.com, quote, when mixed with sugar, like in a cake or cookie batter, eggs help trap and hold air. Not quite as well as whipped egg whites, but enough to give the finished product some lightness and lift, end quote. As the mixer introduces more air into the mixture, more and more air bubbles are covered with these proteins that prevent the bubbles from bursting, and therefore the whole batter retains more air and gets lighter and fluffier. So if we make a cake without eggs, well, we would expect it to have a thicker, denser consistency. The egg's second role is flavor, but not in the way that you'd expect. The protein found in egg contributes to what's called Maillard reactions, which create a browned crust with a difference in flavor. You've undoubtedly seen the handiwork of Maillard reactions in a bunch of different foods, from cakes to steaks to bread. So if we were to bake a cake without eggs, presumably we should notice a difference in the taste. We shouldn't be getting as browned of a crust around the areas with the most heat, which to me might not be that big of a deal, but to my parents, oh man, if they could make a brownie that was just edge, just Maillard reaction central, that's all they'd care about, right? They love that brown, crispy edge. I'm more of an ooey gooey center guy myself. Finally, eggs act as an emulsifier in baking recipes. Now, I know that might sound like a big complex word, but don't worry, it's actually quite egg-proachable.
Dang it, Matt, that's not even a good pun.
I should have done approachable. The term emulsifier is just a chemistry term for something that helps two liquids mix together. And in the case of boxed cake recipes, those two liquids are water and vegetable oil. Considering how water and oil famously don't mix, it's especially important to have an emulsifier, in this case the egg, present when baking a cake. Otherwise, the batter would be a separated mess with a lot of clumps, and the final cake would have about as much structural integrity as the treehouse I made when I was 7. So it seems like eggs do a ton of heavy lifting in baking recipes. They're making the cake lighter and fluffier, they're adding to the flavor through the Maillard reactions, they're allowing the ingredients themselves to mix together into a seamless batter. So if we bake a cake using 0 eggs, obviously the result is going to be some monstrosity that barely resembles a cake, right? Not so fast. Take a look at the side of the cake mix box there, Chief. Notice all those ingredients that sound like they belong on a Walter White shopping list: dicalcium phosphate, thiamine mononitrate, etc., etc. That's right, those are all contributing to that Betty Crocker goodness. With distilled monoglycerides, just like Mom used to make. In all seriousness though, monoglycerides just so happen to aid emulsification. So do propylene glycol mono and diesters of fatty acids. That means that even without the addition of any eggs, there are still ingredients in the cake mix box, ensuring that the oil-based and water-based ingredients are going to be able to bind together. In fact, pretty much all the strange-sounding ingredients on the side of the Betty Crocker Super Moist Delights French Vanilla Cake Mix box do something that you'd expect the egg to be doing. Cellulose gum and xanthan gum help stabilize the emulsion. The distilled monoglycerides I joked about earlier allow the Maillard reaction to occur. Sodium stearoyl lactylate not only aids emulsification, but also increases volume, just like an egg would. Notice how much bigger and fluffier a loaf of bread is when sodium stearoyl lactylate is included. As we go down the list of boxed cake mix ingredients, we see the major contributions an egg makes to a recipe: emulsification, volume, taste. They're all redundantly covered by ingredients that are already coming in the box. So it certainly seems, at least from a chemistry perspective, that the boxed cake mix has it all under control. all. Those additives are doing exactly the same things that the eggs should be doing in the cake batter. But here at Food Theory, we're not content to just leave things as theories. We're trying to get all the way to food facts. And that's why we sent this case to the Theorist Test Kitchen, which is totally, absolutely, 100% definitely a real thing and not just the kitchens of the various members of Team Theorist. We took the same Betty Crocker Super Moist Delights French vanilla cake mix from earlier and made 2 cakes. One with water, vegetable oil, and eggs added, as instructed on the back of the box, and the other without the eggs. We only added the oil and the water. In mixing the two of them, immediately there was a very clear difference in the batter. The batter with eggs added was much runnier, which makes sense, right? An egg white is about 90% water after all. It also had a much yellower color because, duh, egg yolks are yellow. By contrast, the batter without eggs felt very thick. It felt much stickier. The batter clung to the mixer beater when we pulled it out. But it's the finished product that really matters here. So here's a side-by-side comparison of the cake with eggs included on the left and the cake without eggs over on the right. The tops of both cake slices show evidence of Maillard reaction browning, though a bit more so on the cake with eggs. The cake with eggs also cut more cleanly with the knife, whereas the cake without eggs was crumblier. It's more difficult to get out of the pan in one piece. But honestly, from initial looks, I think they both look pretty delicious. It's the interior, though, where we really start to see the differences. The inside of the cake with eggs added had lots of small, evenly distributed bubbles, where air had gotten trapped and assisted the leavening of the cake. You might say that the structure is exemplary, or you might not because you're not amused by egg puns. Compare that to the cake with no eggs, and you have much larger crumbs, fewer air bubbles, and less structural integrity. So, while it might not look like the greatest slice of cake you ever had, I'm gonna go ahead and say that we at least achieved what we set out to do, which was to bake something passable. Besides, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what it looks like, it's all about the taste. Am I right? So we took both cakes, the cake with eggs as well as the cake without eggs, and we handed them out to our Theorist guinea pigs. I mean, the loyal members of Team Theorist. The general feedback was that the cake without eggs was denser and creamier.
Trial version.
But that there was no pronounced difference in the actual flavor. In fact, a couple of us actually preferred the more crumbly cake without the eggs. So the two cakes were noticeably different. The eggless cake was denser, had less Maillard reaction, and had less structural stability, but the additives inside that boxed cake mix obviously helped to pick up a lot of the slack. Despite turning out differently, the eggless cake was very edible, even preferred by some people in a blind taste test. So I'm gonna go ahead and declare the rumors to be Theorist certified true. You do not necessarily have to include an egg in your boxed cake recipe. The recipe has been lying to us.
You gotta do nothing by the book. You know you can't be lazy.
Stop your pro-exercise propaganda right there, Lazy Town. Turns out you can be lazy while making a cake. Call me Robbie Rotten, but you don't have to cook by the book. Adding eggs, totally optional. Who knew? I feel like my cake world has been turned upside down. But I'm still left wondering, why? Why would Big Cake lie to us? I mean, those additives are already doing most of the work of the eggs, and honestly, if they just added a bit more of each of those additives, you would pretty much eliminate the eggs entirely. I mean, think of all that time I've wasted buying eggs, cracking eggs, trying to get the eggshells out of my batter because I'm bad at cracking eggs, writing egg-themed wise cracks for this video. Surely there's an explanation for the deception. What gives? Well, remember earlier when I told you that this was a rumor I heard? Well, the article that spurred this whole episode was from Psychology Today. And as you might expect, there's a psych-based reason behind this lie that Big Cake keeps shoving down our throats. According to Psychology Today, in the earliest days of instant cake mixes, you didn't actually have to add the eggs or the oil like you do today. The only ingredient you had to add was water, then mix it, then bake it. But much to the chagrin of the food engineers at Betty Crocker back in the 1950s, people weren't buying the cake mixes. So the company dispatched some psychologists to figure out why their cake mixes weren't selling off the shelves. The sexist conclusion they came to was that housewives felt guilty about how easy it was to bake a cake just by adding water, and that they didn't like, quote, deceiving their husbands and guests. Something tells me that the real reason they didn't want to make a cake out of a cardboard box is the same reason you probably wouldn't want to make guacamole out of a cardboard box. You'd probably be be kinda suspicious of the quality and what kind of additives they had to put in to make it work. But whatever the real reason was, the marketing wizards at Betty Crocker decided that if they prompted bakers to add an egg, they would be more invested in the baking process. Correlation isn't necessarily causation, but danged if cake mixes didn't get more and more popular after bakers were required to add the egg and oil, and here we are today. Here's the most interesting bit of it all, though. They didn't reformulate the recipe for the cake mix when they started instructing people to add the egg. So the egg that they told people to add wasn't really necessary. So there you have it, friends. The cake truly is a lie. But hey, that's just a theory. A food theory. That's all, yokes. Except for the part where I tell you all to subscribe, that is. Guys,